This segment is our real-world example. It uses the 4th edition of the BattleTech role-playing game, A Time of War, as its base. And if you'd like to see what the story outcome of these steps were, please feel free to go to my blog and check out the archive of the stories that I've uploaded so far. I haven't reached the end of the campaign yet, but there's a lot of reading there for you to do if you're interested. So the campaign was called Hair of the Dog, and you can find the archive of Hair of the Dog on my blog. For now, this is an example of following the steps I suggested in the first 2 clips, envisioning the campaign and pitching the campaign. On my blog, you can follow through with most of a year-long, slightly longer, but a year-long campaign for MechWarrior. A Time of War, the 4th edition of the MechWarrior role-playing game. Now, I point that out because it will fill in some of the blanks on the story side of what I'm talking about, but the background part is this example. So, we decided as a group, we were sitting around online talking about what we'd like to play next, and we were talking about BattleTech, which transitioned into remembering a campaign we had played as much younger men, which went off the rails due to being far too ambitious. It involved more than 20 players and various mercenary groups, and you get the idea. It was doomed to fail because of schedules. So we thought, wouldn't it be great to try that kind of grand strategic approach to BattleTech again? And so I said, okay, and which do we want to do? 3rd edition, which was just wrapping up, or 4th edition, which was just starting? And I surveyed the players, and it wound up being a split decision, actually, between 3rd and 4th edition, so I did the tiebreaker, and I chose 4th edition for reasons which are not important for this clip, but we had already picked very organically, it just came up in conversation, what game system we wanted to do next, or what setting we wanted to do next, and then we discussed choosing the setting. So once that was established, what could we possibly do? And we knew that the interest was small group actions, but we also wanted to do large strategic scale. So how do we balance that? So the idea was floated, I can't remember where it actually came from, of a rebellion. So that's where we left things. We decided that we would create characters that were connected to the military, and the players went off to start generating their characters. And I created that first scene, which was a military academy, and the first day of the campaign was the arrival of an enemy force to annex that planet. So that sets us up. The game could go in multiple directions. They could stay as a small unit, just them and their equipment against the local forces of the enemy. Or they could decide to start or join or split or whatever. They could do whatever they wanted with existing resistance movements. It's a very wide open world, and we're on a set timeline. Right? We start on the day that the enemy forces landed. Now the enemy forces are on a schedule. They have to take over that world, and the other NPC groups on the planet had to make decisions about, is the opposition overwhelming? Should we join up? Can we start a resistance movement? Should we find other resistance movements? How can we do this without being detected? And on and on and on. So, as the game master, my job was to keep track of this schedule and interpret what actions would result from it. And the player's job was to do exactly the same thing. They had to discover what the enemy schedule was. They could predict vast parts of it, and then they'd have to decide what was an appropriate response. And you can read about their response on my blog if you like. But in terms of this discussion, it's not relevant. So how did we get there? We felt the urge to play MechWarrior again. We were torn between doing small unit and large strategic action, so we found a way to do both. We created characters that were appropriate for that, and I built a setting that met all of those needs. And then once play started, no further story creation was done by me. The rest was all what happened. So these 3 segments, envisioning the campaign, pitching the campaign, and this last example of those first 2 steps, bring us to the end of pre-play preparations. Now there are some concepts we'll still need to talk about, and they're going to come in subsequent segments. But for now, let's talk about these ideas. Let me know what you think, or ask questions about any concepts which you feel are unclear or need further explanation in the comments or in a video reply. I really look forward to talking about this with people, so don't be shy.